Welcome back to Success is Weird and Messy. I'm your host, Kathleen Gabriel. Each week I talk with entrepreneurs about how they've navigated all the challenges and changes that come with running a business. Today I'm joined by Erin Reeves, the co-founder and principal of Next Level. She's an executive strategist, advisor, and coach who shapes people-centric organizations and cultures that align with business goals, transforms the gap between knowing and doing into measurable and inevitable progress. Erin, welcome.
Thank you so much, Kathleen, for the invitation to your part of the internet.
Thank you for being here. It's always a delight to talk to you.
Likewise.
So, to start us off, please tell me more about Next Level, what you do, what's your scope, what's your deal?
Yeah. So Next Level, it's Next Level Org Team and You. And what that really means is we're working with leaders every day. So if that's corporate leaders, a nonprofit, business owners, founders, members of the executive team, directors, people who are leading, that's who we're working with every day. And then we help them either kind of directly, right, through coaching, like, hey, Houston, I have a problem. I need some support. Or maybe with their team, right? So we have the you, now we have the team. Team maybe isn't functioning. Maybe there's some transition on the team, a new member or someone that's kind of transitioning out. And then the third is organization, right? So we're going through a big change initiative. We're doing a merger and acquisition. We are growing really quickly, or we're not growing as fast as we need to. So it is really kind of meeting the leader where they are. And if the need is kind of directly like, how do I, get clarity and confidence with me as a leader and get in the position to lead my team and my organization? We support that. We support the leadership team. And then we do support the leader, the leadership team make impact across the organization.
That's fantastic. How and sort of when and how do leaders tend to find you and say, oh, this is absolutely something we need, but I don't know how to do it myself?
Yeah, there's usually a moment or leaders find themselves in their moment and it doesn't always look the same. So, I would say leaders who are feeling a little bit stuck or, some frustration is building up or they find themselves trying to answer the same question or the same problem a few times in a row. We're going to hire this person to do this thing and we hire it and it doesn't work out. And then we do it again and it doesn't work out. And like by the third time, there's usually like, Houston, there's a problem. And often they'll reach out, for some, what I call outside in thinking, right? We've been doing this. We think we're doing the right thing. We've not been able to kind of thread the needle and figure out the right path or the course or what we really need. And can someone come in outside in? That's a way that we get called in. A lot of times it's around leadership changes and ownership changes if it's a smaller business. So especially in family businesses where grandpa or dad is transitioning out or mom or dad, transitioning out and kind of next gen is stepping in to take over or outside the family, making those transitions, getting organizations ready for that. So it is, owners get to decide where they want to transfer. And that's just the beginning, right? There's a whole transaction to put together, but there's also what happens in that team or organization when the leader is gone.
Yeah. And I think you hit on a few different things there that always remind me that leadership and being in an organization is very emotional. And when, like, if you're a family run organization, maybe the family gets along really well. But when change happens, that impacts every aspect of life, not just business. And honestly, even not in a family organization, it affects every aspect of life, not just business.
That's absolutely true. And that I was having a conversation with a parent group in this situation. And I was like, folks bring people like me in to help create the space to have the conversation with some facilitation so that Christmas still gets to be really fun. Like that's the kind of, it is hard to have these conversations. It's hard to make these decisions, especially when emotions are in the way. And whether it's family or just people you work with, right, that you've worked well with, as organizations change and grow, then what is needed from the leaders changes too. And so that's where growth or transition in or out of a business, members to that leadership team, all of those are moments right? Things that happen in the business where someone kind of goes, this is hard, or we're stuck, or we keep trying to break through this next level. We keep trying to bring in a new person to help us solve this problem. That's what I think of when I think of those moments, right? Like, when do people call me? And there's these moments of, I'm not sure what to do, or I know what to do, but we can't seem to get it done, right? Those are kind of two things that I hear a lot. And sometimes it literally is just like, Erin, shit hit the fan. I like, just please come help me sort through this. And that's really, I'm like an emergency services person, and gear up and come in and kind of ride beside trusted partner of the leader to help them, what's going on, triage, figure out and get them to a place where they can find clarity is really what we're trying to do. Like, oxygen mask, take a deep breath. Oftentimes, it's not the first time this has happened in a business, whatever the issue is. And so there's some pattern recognition from having a lot of experience in business with leaders, myself, my own personal life and experience, where you have pattern recognition so you can put the dots together a little bit more quickly. You don't have quite the same emotion because you're looking at it, you're not in it,
Yeah.
right? And it creates a space where that leader can more quickly put the pieces together, catch their breath, get some clarity, and then have confidence to move in that next level. And that's really to support leaders, whether it's their own selves, put your own oxygen mask on, what's your next best step? How do I lead my team? How do I lead my organization? It is, you know, we think we have this big problem over here, and usually there's some discovery, right? Some conversation. And you're like, yes. And this thing over here that you weren't thinking about plays a part too. And so a fun piece of what we call putting the people puzzle together.
Yeah. And I'm sure that you do a lot of identification of, is this a cause or is this a symptom?
Sure. Sure. And depending on the leader, they get to decide which they want to manage, or which, kind of, I have a thing I say where I'm emotionally available for that, or I'm not. And so sometimes all the things, but you're not ready to tackle it yet. Right.
No, and you can only do what you can do. Yeah.
That's right. I mean, it's there, but you can't quite get to it. And it keeps going. And sometimes it resolves on its own, very rarely in my experience. But it is just, starting where the leader is, where the team is, where the organization is, and moving them forward in a way that gives clarity and confidence and helps them meet their goals.
Yeah. Well, how did you get into this line of work? Like, what is your background? What is your history that not only gave you all the skills and information that you need to be this resource, but that made you say, you know what I want to do? I want to found my own company.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. It's 25 plus years now of, kind of corporate HR experience. So executive experience, frontline experience, solo HR, all of those pieces in organizations across industries and really of all sizes. A ton of what I call M&A, and I get reminded to define what does that mean, and that's merger and acquisition. So when companies come together or they purchase, someone gets purchased or purchased, and really what that is it's merging two cultures and two companies together. And so I love that kind of work, because you have to really kind of dig deep on both of the organizations and work together to put that puzzle together. Like, these things are, lots of like symbiosis. This is a lot the same. This is going to be good. They're going to like this because it's even more generous. And they are probably not going to like these other things, or maybe think that these are takeaways. So that experience of reviewing and touching a lot of different organizations is something I like, that is that puzzle piece, and putting people together and alignment around goals and values, and then just how we get our work done and how we work together. So I think that's a big piece.
Yeah, and honestly, with mergers and acquisitions, there's a pretty well-known idea that a lot of mergers fail on the people aspect. If you don't take the time and effort to really understand what's going on with the people and why people might want to work together and what's important to them and what's not,
Yeah.
it's not going to work out. And there is also an understanding that that sort of thing is important in the workplace in general. But I don't think either of those ideas are necessarily as focused as they could be.
Yeah, I mean, you're HR practitioner, we're speaking the same language, Kathleen,
Yeah.
that we would agree vehemently on that idea is not shocking to me.
Yeah.
I do think that, there's some magic in that. And I think if, for folks who have been in organizations where it just kind of works and the growth happens and people communicate and they like coming to work and they like the people, and it's not like, let's hang out after work, but they enjoy the people, they feel connected, it's hard to put your finger on what that is. But once you experience it, you chase it for the rest of your career.
Yes, you do.
And as someone who experienced that more than one time, very lucky, part of, doing and having all this experience, working with all of these leaders, struggling personally and supporting people in leadership, because leadership is not for the faint of heart. Right. And so it's the combination of like the know how, the like the wounds, right? And the experience supporting others is what really led, to the founding of Next Level Org. And we really want to step in beside these, leaders who are struggling in their moment. Right. And even if they're not struggling, they know that they don't know, or they know but can't quite do, and it's bringing in that expertise at the right moment, at the right level to help move them forward more quickly, right? And get through that moment and work to create that space and that environment that we're all chasing to get the greatest good for the individuals and for the business.
Well, and there's this idea that we've all heard of, it's lonely at the top. Like you're at, especially a business owner, a business founder, anyone who the buck stops with them, they're the final decision maker. It can feel very much like, well, I have to be alone because I'm the only one who can do this. And I think you'd agree that that's a bit of a fallacy, and we can't just do these things alone.
Yeah, I think not only I think that's true. I think it does feel lonely. My experience is that there were moments of loneliness for sure. I think some people relish that and some people seek community. And, there is an opportunity to create community at that executive level. And I think about it kind of like a personal board of directors, right? And so, first, I'll say it can be lonely at the top, but it doesn't have to be and it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
That's where I'll start, because not everyone's an expert on everything. No one has to do everything by themselves. There's this perception that leaders have to have all the answers right away. Especially in the business world, it's not as common as it say, let's think about, elite athletes and Olympians and, orchestras and first chairs. These folks, not only do they practice all the time, right? They have a million coaches. They have coaches for everything. They have rest days and recovery days, and they've done the science of how to get their bodies or their musicianship in top peak form. And then they go do that. Right. And if they get off, Caitlin, misses a 3-pointer too often and she can't get it back, she goes and gets a coach,
Yeah.
like a special coach. And that doesn't mean she can't do it. No one else can do what she does right now. Right. But her coach, she still relies on a coach and goes back to fundamentals and brings in some outside and kind of gets a tweak and tune and then goes off on her way. But somehow in business, saying a consultant or a coach or an expert somehow is this like, well, I don't know, or I can't do it myself, or I'm not good enough to be the leader. And I don't think that's true very many places.
No. And to your point, that's so limiting because
Mm,
if we only say that, oh, well, I can only do the things that I know how to do and that I
hmm
can learn on my own and then push forward. Only my own ideas are the ideas that can enter this organization. Well, then you're limited to only yourself and your own experiences. Whereas if you bring in other people, unlimited. There's nowhere you can't go.
Yeah. And that is part of the knowing what your zone of genius is,
Yes.
right? And operating there and make sure that you are leveraging people around you, whether that be internal employees or outside consultants or kind of this personal board of directors idea I mentioned earlier, which is people in my life I have collected over time that know me and or have worked with me in a way that I know I can call when I'm in a jam. And so it's, not someone I talk to every day. I don't pay them. They don't get options. No, it's not that kind. It's way more informal than that.
Right.
But it is this collection of people that I know I can turn to ask questions or get insight or what am I missing or I need you to talk me down from this. Right. Or I have this business problem. Have you solved this before? And how did you solve it? And so it's not always about pay. It's not always about, signing up with a big consulting ish, problem. One of the most popular things we talk about in our services is like the bat phone. Like, how can I call you, Erin, when I have a problem or I need to talk to you? And I'm like, well, I'll give you my bat phone number and you can call me and we can work through that. And it's same theory as this kind of personal board of directors, where it's kind of an informal thing that I recommend folks put together and be part of for other people because it's reciprocal, right? And it's less lonely. And it can be a first port of call, so to speak, when folks are feeling kind of on their own or not sure, needing some reassurance or just a little bit of a pick me up. Everybody should have those folks in their lives.
Yeah. And honestly, we do that at every other level of an organization, or at least hopefully we do,
Mhm.
in which we evaluate what is each employee's zone of genius? What are they interested in and great at? And how can we get them to do more of that? And how can we support them in learning, in growing their career? Why would we not do that with leadership?
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's now as an entrepreneur, so I was doing it inside organizations, supporting people inside, stepped away, started this organization, and now I also wear the hat of entrepreneur and understand
Mhm.
that in a whole different way and talk about being in your head.
Yeah.
And understanding the weight of running a business and making payroll, all of those additional weights that really only the person at the top can feel. It is so important to also realize that the success is on the shoulders, right, of the business. And so the energy that you bring and the approach and the headspace, and I always, I think energy equals leadership. If you have good energy, you'll have good leadership. I think how you show up as a leader is permission for other people to do the same. So if you're showing up good, that's great. And if you're showing up not so great, you've just given kind of everyone around you permission to do the same. And so I do think that this, how we manage ourselves, how we, anchor and manage our energy so that we're not kind of too high or too low or burned out, is one of the biggest risks to businesses. Because if you run out of steam, then your organization will too.
Yeah. And you bring up an excellent point of honestly, people will follow what a leader does more than what they say. Just as with everything in life, we are more attuned to what people say, to what people do than
Yep.
what they say on top of that.
Yeah. What they do and how they make you feel.
Yeah, yeah, and honestly, that comes back to when you're leading your own self, is that different from leading a team? Because you have to lead yourself in that direction as well.
Yeah, I do. I talk a lot about oxygen mask, which you've heard already today, but it is that, self leadership, how you lead yourself, how you manage your energy, what your communication style is, what your delegation style is, what your vision and how you share that with the organization, kind of your leadership platform. People talk about a lot as a solopreneur, right? Or someone in a small organization, for a long time you wear all the hats,
Yeah.
right? Because you're it and there isn't an opportunity to do that. And that's really leveraging that board of directors. That's, bartering. I'll give you some free HR advice if you'll give me some, free HR advice or some free financial advice. But as you start to add team members and you've got those experts around you, how you utilize and put your team together is really going to come from your leadership perspective and the way you want your organization, the way you want to lead. And I so often see leaders either in a corporate or nonprofit environment get promoted to these senior leadership positions without really half a second to think about what their leadership style is or how they want to show up differently or what kind of leader they want to be or how it, and even if they know, like, then what are the things underneath that I need to do so that I can come across and be the leader I want to be. And then a lot of times too, this transition for smaller organizations where you're a founder, right? Founding is different than CEOing, if that's a verb. I'm not sure, but it is. Yeah, we're just going to make it up. So I think that is different. What you need as a founder and a product market fit and a chase money is different than what organizations need as a CEO. And oftentimes people don't make that move either because they don't want to, right? Or they just don't have the experience. But for folks that want to make that move, right, those are the moments when we might get called in to support people through transitions like that. So I'm a team of 15 or 30 or 20, whatever the number is, and we're moving and now we're starting to grow. And all of these other requirements come into play that people may not have experience with or be ready for. And we can help put the puzzle together. And that always starts with you. Like, what do we know about you, leader? What do I know about me as a leader? What do I want it to be? What are my blind spots and my gaps? And how do I put a team together? Both skills, right? Like, what are the talent, skills, and special sauce I don't have that we need, but also from a leadership perspective.
Yeah, and it is one of the tragedies of the business world that you can get schooling for pretty much every aspect of being in business, but not really leadership. You really have to get that externally.
Yeah, there's lots of books, there's lots of trainings, there's lots of coaches,
Yeah.
present company included,
Of course.
to support folks, and there isn't a manual,
Nope.
right? Because we're all unique and we're all different. And so how we show up and how we want to work. And then, oh, by the way, we work with a bunch of people who are also
Yep.
all unique and all different. And so it is, some awareness of yourself. It's figuring out how to, work with people that are like you and people that aren't. And, I think value, the different perspectives people bring and the different, zones of genius. It takes more than just one thing to win.
Yeah.
And, the teams that are doing it well, the people that are doing it well are really paying attention to what they're good at. They're putting a team of people together that complement each other and they have a lot of clarity in their strategy. And they're revisiting that all the time because, as we know, the world does not stop spinning for anything.
No, no matter what. Yeah. And so as you've gone on your own entrepreneurial journey, started your own business, what is like the weirdest obstacle you faced or the biggest pivot you've made? What has been a big change?
Yeah, it's funny, a few times I've been asked, you like, tell us how it all worked for you. And people expect this kind of up and to the right, beautiful, like, first I was this, and then it was bigger, and then it was bigger. And it's more like a zigzag, swirly thing. I'm one of those random people that got a degree in HR and have done that, most of my professional career or all of it, but it was, kind of progressive jobs and then quit your job, Erin, and go travel, backpack Europe for a couple of years. That was a thing that people don't always do or throw into the middle of their early career,
Nice though.
which was, everyone thought I was crazy, but it was so much fun. So there was some early success and some growth and a really great thing. And it was like, well, I could buy a house or I could go travel. And I went to travel. My options were worth something. I thought that would be true always. Turns out that's not the case.
No, alas.
Yeah, alas. So there was, this kind of early success and a break through travel. And then there was a return, kind of not immediately, but after some time to corporate and then growing back up, right? I had kind of stepped out of the game for a while, stepping back in, and then kind of started to grow back up and then went and had a few children, kind of, we had some odd unemployment cycles in my house, then 0 to 4 for our kiddos. They're only 13 months apart. I tell people not to try that at home.
But where else would they try it?
Right. Yes. Only when you get two HR people together.
I know, right?
But I do, so it is, you think it's going to go up and to the right and everything's going to be by your design and, you're going to make all the decisions about, your career and the timing. And And, the world then tells you and life happens, maybe not to your choosing. And, I got laid off from my first job ever on the other side of the table, which was an experience in between my 13 months of having my children. So had one, got laid off, had another one. So it was a whole, so it is this like life, work piece where the career wasn't up and to the right because life didn't kind of life the way it was supposed to either. And having that come in the first half of a career and, kind of stepping in and out of the workforce, like travel by design. I said, I'm peace out, I'm here. And then not by design, kind of around the time frame I was having my children, you know, it did kind of somewhere in my deep in my mind, I always know I'm going to land on my feet because I just do. Right. And there's some certainty in that experience that I think is great. Do I know it in the moment? Am I sure about it for next week or next month? Not always, but bigger picture, 30,000-foot view. I think that experience has been good. And I think often the decisions that we are worried about or the decisions that we feel like are made for us, when I look back, I'm like, oh, thank goodness that happened. Because then I went to this place and did that thing and met this person. And it's this kind of, serendipitous, ebb and flow of meeting people and roles and responsibilities and experiences that have led me to you and here being here today. And
Yeah.
so it's not with regret or wish, for something different in the past. It's more, well, isn't that fascinating? And now as things happen, really work hard to, well, that's not what we expected or that's not what we were after. So what's going on here? And what is the right path? What is the next thing to do? And I think it is a little bit of flexibility and adaptability and seeing things in a different way. And it really is defining success.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that just teed me right up. How do you define success?
Yes, I'm so glad you asked. I think before it would have been climb the ladder, do the thing, get the job you've always wanted. I think there's a real traditional part of my brain and my expectation. Well, then I did that and it wasn't, everything I wanted it to be. I think if as I define success now, it's more whole person and it's more integrated. Where I always felt like I had a life and a work life. Now I'm really wanting to integrate those pieces so that the work I'm doing, which is supporting leaders, which I feel really strongly and passionately about, is really important to me. So it's about the work, right? It's not a hobby, right? It is
Yeah.
work, but it feels more like a hobby than work has for a long time. And then there's this other idea about building community and creating community for myself and for others. And so that's the kind of right brain, left brain, personal work life, and then my family and my friends and my joy and figuring out a way to integrate some of those quit your job and go travel, Erin, ideas with your climb the corporate ladder, Erin, ideas into this, entrepreneurship journey, which is Next Level Org that helps other leaders on their journey. It's, just a coming together of a lot of threads over a lot of years.
Yeah. Well, I think it's so important to combine that personal fulfillment, that life, and frankly, financial success and whatever other kind of, wins that one wants to have in professional life. It's all
Yes.
important.
It's all life.
Yeah. It's all life.
It's all life.
Well, Erin, thank you again so much for being with me today. Where should people find you online?
Yes, so that you can check us out on the World Wide Web. So www.nextlevelorg.net. We're a .net house over here. My email is the same. It's Erin, ERIN, at nextlevelorg.net. And, I think they'll have some links to get me on LinkedIn. We
Yeah.
are offering 20-minute consultations right now for folks who might be curious about any of the stuff we've talked about today or who leaders who are just having a moment and want a sounding board for whatever they're going through. We are offering 20-minute complimentary confidential consultations. So love to meet some folks that way.
Yeah, we'll have the links to all of that, and everyone sincerely go check out that 20-minute complimentary consultation because you never know where your next, life-changing idea is going to come from. Let Erin guide you there. And also, thank you everyone for listening. You can find Success is Weird and Messy wherever you get your podcasts, and it helps us so much if you follow, rate, and review. And if you like the show, a friend, and we'll see you next week.